Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. Make sure you're listening anywhere you get podcasts, and you can follow me on socials at MLUpod. And don't forget to subscribe to the monthly My Little Underground email newsletter, and that's over at peteraradio.com as well. Today on the show, all the way from Santa Fe, we have the great Betty Taylor, aka Velvet Vision, on the show to talk about her upcoming new single, Silver City. And we also talked about her other project, Little Tulips, as well as booking her own tour, doing radio, and so much more with the great Betty Taylor, aka Velvet Vision, right here on My Little Underground. You got back from a nice little Minneapolis trip, huh?
I did. I got back. Yeah. Oh my God. I was so excited to hear that on that episode. And like, I don't know. I love talking about Minneapolis. So when I heard about 5 Watt and just other Minneapolis things, I was pretty excited about that. Also, there's my cat.
Oh, cool. I was gonna say, like, there's a bunch of cats in my apartment too. So there may be some meowing going on.
Oh,
maybe.
Good to know.
Maybe. Hopefully not. Maybe they know.
No.
They just know that like I do podcasts. So like, we'll leave them alone for now.
No worries. Yeah, I just got back on the 30th and it was a little dicey. My flight back, because there's like just no direct flights from Minneapolis to New Mexico. Or I mean, there are, but I feel like they're rare. So I didn't have one. I had a layover in Denver that like kept getting delayed like 20 minutes and then it would get delayed another 20 minutes. And I don't know. I was seeing like all this stuff about, God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
I kept seeing all the things about like flights getting canceled because of Omicron. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get stuck in Denver. But I didn't.
Okay, that's good. Were you able to go to any of the places I mentioned? Like 5 Watt or Electric Fetus or anything?
I actually did go to Electric Fetus.
Cool. Did you pick up anything? Did you get anything?
No, I was looking at a few records, but I don't know. I didn't check a bag and my stuff was already pretty packed. Like I had some Christmas stuff that I was given that I had to bring back and it was already just like so packed. I didn't think I'd be able to bring something like that without breaking it. So
Yes. Yeah.
But I got a couple stickers and a book of matches.
Oh yeah. I was just like you because I didn't check anything either, and I wasn't gonna bring a bunch of 12-inch records from New York, even though it's a short flight. So I just looked through the 7-inch collection. I bought a 7-inch there, and I just threw it in the backpack. So yeah, that place is just, man, I love it. I love Minneapolis so much. Like I'm not from Minneapolis, but I could talk about it all day just like you.
Yay, I love that. Well, I mean, I feel the same way about New York, so.
Oh really? I mean, see, that makes me happy too.
I mean, that's like an easy one. I feel like so many people love New York. You don't hear that as much about Minneapolis, but I do really enjoy it. Every time I visit New York. It's great.
So there is a cynicism about New York City as well. There's some people here that hate it here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
heard that too.
Oh yeah. So when you were in Minneapolis before you moved to Santa Fe, what can you tell me about the independent music scene? Because I have an inkling about it. I know of some artists, they're broken up now, but I know a little bit. Maybe you can tell me a lot more.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Like it's really thriving. There's just like so many independent, like local musicians there, especially like moving out of there. I really started to realize like, whoa, like the music scene there is just like booming and really supportive. Like a lot of artists that like kind of lift each other up and like a lot of really supportive venues and publications and like local non-commercial radio stations that are really supportive. Admittedly, I didn't get super involved in the scene like before I left, mostly because I was really nervous to like play music live. So I got involved like a little bit right before I left because finally I was like, I can't take it anymore. I like have to play music and I have to be in a band. And but otherwise I had, like a lot of friends and acquaintances, like coworkers that were really involved and just getting a taste of it before I left. I don't know. I was almost tempted to stay because I was like, wow, this is like really great. But I just had to, leave my home state, see what else was out there.
Yeah. Did you listen to Radio K at all?
Yeah, I did a little bit. Yeah, Radio K is a good one. And then KFAI and The Current, I feel like, is kind of the big non-commercial one that everybody knows. But Radio K is really cool.
Yeah. While you
and I
were
went to
there,
that college, so.
Oh yeah, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. That's dope. So while you were in school, did you like stop by, or did you know anybody that was like, working with the radio station at all?
Yeah, I have a couple of like really close friends that were DJs at Radio K while I was in college. So they were involved. I feel like I just got like I was really shy, and I kind of just came out of my shell in the last few years because it was like, I don't know, the draw to like be involved in radio and like do music just never went away. And I kind of was hoping that it would. I was like, well, maybe if I'll just ignore this until it goes away. But yeah, it never did. So yeah, when I was in college, I didn't really try to be involved in the radio just because I was too shy to do that.
Yeah.
But
Did
it looked cool.
Yeah, it was, I did college radio, and I'm still in a shell. to be honest, I've done all kinds of, broadcasting stuff, and I'm still in a shell, and I'm gladly so. I love it. It's great. But did you know about Brilliant Beast? Because I know they broke up like maybe 2 years ago. You know about that band? Oh man,
no,
that band was so cool. Let's see what else.
Send me a link.
Yeah, I will. There's Tony Peachka, but they're no longer a band too. But
I am aware of Tony Peachka.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. They're really cool. I like them. I heard about them from Radio K. Really good station. Really cool. And that actually like not piqued my interest, like opened my interest to Minneapolis, listening to that station. And then I was there. I'm like, okay, this place is really fucking cool. I love it. If your winters didn't suck, I'd go there more often,
Oh my God. That was the one thing when I was back there. I hadn't been back for a winter in like 2 years. And I was definitely like, wow, remembering why I don't live here anymore.
But it's still a cool, pretty city, regardless of the horrendous winters that they have. I looked at the weather because I have a friend who lives out there, and I was like, this is illegal. Like, no temperature should be in the negatives. Like, it's just, no, that's a crime. Somebody needs to be arrested for that. It's, you know what I mean? So
there was one time. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There was a time that I was there, and I like opened my weather app, and it must have like glitched out or something, but it said that the temperature there was -0. I was like,
it's like, no, that's a glitch in the system right there.
Yeah.
Yep. So you became Velvet Vision when you left Minneapolis and came to Santa Fe. Is that right, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
It is right.
Yeah. So what can you tell me when you relocated about the independent music scene of Santa Fe as opposed to Minneapolis? Not putting them against each other, but like things that you noticed, or the kind of artistry there. Or...
Yeah, I mean, Santa Fe, population wise is a lot smaller than Minneapolis. It's maybe like 85,000 people. And it's sort of notorious for having like an older population. So it can get this reputation for being like a little sleepy. And I was sort of like, I don't want to say warned of that before I moved, but I had that in mind before I moved here. But with that comes like a really tight knit music scene. So like if you meet one person, I feel like if you meet one person, it's almost like you've met everyone, or not quite, but everybody's sort of intertwined just because there are so few young people. And it seems like, at least from what I've met so far, all of the young people who are like doing music, and not just young people, but like, I hang out usually with my own age group for the most part. Really supportive, pretty like welcoming. It's been a little hard because I've mostly been here in the pandemic, but I found it fairly easy to meet people and get involved in community here. And it feels like it's like small but mighty.
Yeah, I like that. So
yeah,
I come from a small, I come from Long Island, right? So
Mhm.
like that independent music scene is very small, but rather large at the same time. But the one thing I've noticed, um, some of the scenes out there can get a little are too similar. Like a lot of acts out there are very emo influenced. I met a lot of cool artists there, but like that wasn't really my bag, and the diversity wasn't all there, if you know what I mean. So
Mhm.
with in Santa Fe, is it the same? Is it a similar thing, or are you noticing totally different types of artistry out there?
It seems like it seems like it varies. To be totally honest, I've been kind of hungry to go to more shows, just because things have been so locked down. But like
Oh, it's
I
a
mean, just
great time to
thinking,
go to a show. Totally a great time.
yeah, like since I got here, it's been kind of difficult. But I'm thinking of like the musicians that I do know, and like there's a pretty strong like experimental like electronic scene. Like I know a few musicians who are doing that kind of thing. I'm in another band and we do kind of okay, my bandmate who writes the songs for this band, she like really doesn't like the words like folk or like singer songwriter. So she's classified us as okay, and I feel like this is like it's not easy to define, but she likes to call us neo-western garage rock.
You got to send me some stuff if you're recording, please, please.
um yeah, but I would say if you had to use a word that I feel like is familiar, I would say like Americana or folky, but we're neo-western garage rock.
All right, please.
And
Are you? Do you have a band name, or is this kind of like hush hush?
no, so that band is called the Little Tulips, and I
The
actually when I
Little
went on,
Tulips. That
yeah,
sounds very Americana. It does. It has like a folk twang to
if
it. I
she
don't even
listens
know.
to this, she
Wow.
will like cringe.
Oh boy, the Little Tulips though. It's out. It's the garden. It's outside. It's for okay. I don't want to
Yeah,
pigeonhole y'all, but I'm curious now. Great name.
yeah,
Great
you'll
name.
have to listen.
Please.
uh
You
I
got stuff
actually
on
when
Bandcamp, etc.
Yeah, it's on Spotify, it's on Bandcamp.
What? The Little
Yeah,
Tulips?
the Little Tulips.
Yo, you got me
So
so excited right now, Betty. Sweet.
I I'm glad. Yeah. I went on this big tour this past summer. Um and that's like where I came into contact with Old Man of the Woods.
Yo, the homie.
Yeah, why I'm talking to you right now. So
Yeah.
I played a backyard show. It was on this tour. It was me, the Little Tulips, and then another musician, Sirens, and she's another solo artist who is the bassist in the Little Tulips. So it was just three of us, three women in this car, but we were like three bands in one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Velvet Vision, the Little Tulips, and then Sirens, my other friend who
Oh,
plays
you're a
bass.
super group. I love it too. Look at that. You're
Yeah.
checking all the boxes for me. This is great.
Yeah, so we played a backyard in Seattle, and that's where I met her. I actually didn't meet her in person. Well, she was there in person, but she messaged me afterwards and was like, "Hey, I was at your show in that yard in Seattle, and I'm curious about like your setup, and I make similar kind of stuff." And so then we got to talking, and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool!" Like, I love networking like that. Like when somebody messages me like that, it's like I don't know, it's cool because everybody kind of has like the same questions and struggles, and it's really nice to be able to like openly be like, here's what I do. Like there doesn't have to be any kind of like proprietary like secret thing. Like if we all do better, we all do better.
Do you see how poetic that is? So you're the little tulips. You're a flower. Old Man of the Woods is a fungus. So y'all are like y'all got a lot in common. Oh, it's beautiful.
That's true.
That is so
I
beautiful.
didn't even think of that.
Yeah. But the thing is, what you're saying is, because listen, I love when like you, artists like you, reach out to me to want to talk. I'm like, this is wonderful. I'm usually on the other end, especially if the music's dope. I get a lot of crap sent to me. So it's really
Wow.
good that when people talk to me, because that's why I'm here. I want to, be a part of your journey, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like we're all doing this together. We're all helping each other out. So
Yeah.
that's really cool that you have that that you have that mindset. So let me ask you this. This is probably very existential. So when you're moving to a new city, right? Are you thinking how Betty is going to fit into the city Or are you thinking how Velvet Vision, me as an artist, is going to fit into this city? Or is it a little bit of both?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it was both, mostly because Velvet Vision I like didn't have established. Like I knew I was moving to Santa Fe. I knew that I really wanted to get involved with some kind of music community. But at that point, I wasn't sure if that was going to be like a band or, I mentioned it before, but I had so much anxiety about playing music, especially doing music solo. So I didn't even know if I was going to be able to like get to this point. So yeah, I guess I was thinking a little bit of both. I was like, me as a person, I want to find a cool community and like nice friends, but also as an artist, it would be cool to like get involved in some sort of community that is musical.
Yeah, yeah. Like, so like with me, like I come from Long Island is very you know, suburban. It's a place to go to school and raise kids, etc. But
Hmm.
like me as getting older, getting out of school, it's like, and I was going into New York to talk to artists and whatever and do my thing. I found that I didn't fit in that Long Island thing anymore. So when I come to the boroughs, like I find, okay, here's where musicianship is. And also we have the internet. I talk to people wherever, like you. So
Hmm.
that was my mentality. And it's kind of like it's artistry and it's personal as well. So I guess for you, it's kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess in that respect, maybe I was thinking about it more as like me as a person. Cause I mean, if I was going here, I feel like Santa Fe is not really like on the map for its music scene.
Yeah, that's
So it was
fine.
kind of like I was crossing my fingers that like I would be able to find a good music scene here, but I wasn't like Santa Fe is where I'm gonna like break out and be a musician just because I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah, because when you look at Detroit, right, is very industry, but then you know all that industry left. No one thinks of Detroit, oh, music, entertainment, but then you look at Jay Dilla, the Eminem, Jack White,
Hmm.
Motown, and all that stuff. It's like, okay, now look at it. Like Santa Fe, like you said, no one really knows Santa Fe for their music, but I think you're gonna help try to do something to showcase artistry that comes out of here or wherever else you end up with, or whatever other city you decide to move into whenever you're like, let me try something else. So,
Yeah.
you know, 2021 was like your first year as Velvet Vision, and you've done I could say a lot, right? You have an EP, a new single out, and you did this
Hmm.
massive tour, right? So, you did this month-long tour across the country, and you booked it with a few women you met in Santa Fe. So, who are
Hmm.
these women?
So one
Are
of
they the
them is
Tulips?
yeah, so they're both in
Okay.
the Little Tulips.
Okay.
The one who fronts the Little Tulips, she writes the songs for that project, and she plays guitar and like sings lead vocal. Her name is Taylor, and she also is the drummer of like a surf punk band here, which is kind of funny. Like we're in the desert and surf punk, but um,
Where's the water? Where's the body of water?
I know the Rio Grande. I don't
Oh, yeah, right.
know. But yeah, she's a really incredible drummer. So she drums for that band, and I met her through a mutual friend. Like during the pandemic, my friend was like, "Hey, you've been wanting to play music. My friend Taylor has been like dying to play music, and there's this like DIY space in Santa Fe called Ghost. That's also a practice space, and Taylor is a member of that. And so we met up a few times and just were jamming. And I sort of assumed she would be playing drums because that's what I've only ever seen her play drums. And then she was like, "Do you mind if I like maybe play guitar?" And I had brought my violin. And then she like started playing and singing, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Like you have to do that. Like you're really good." And then Paris, who's our bassist, she I met her originally because in the thick of the pandemic, I really needed a haircut. And one of my friends was like, "Oh, there's somebody in Santa Fe who like is a licensed hairstylist who's been doing house calls and just like has been coming to people's backyards to do hair." And that's Paris. That's what she does. She uh
I
is a
need one of those
hairstylist.
people in New York. Oh
Yeah.
man, I need to get
It's
lined up, but like safely. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's really funny because she lived in New York for a long time. So when we passed through New York on tour, she actually like did a few cuts while we were there.
Wow. That's real dope.
Uh,
That's awesome.
yeah, so I met her for the first time. She cut my hair, and while we were talking, I was like, "Yeah, I'm a musician," and she said that she played bass. And then when Taylor and I got stuff moving, and we were like, "Man, it'd be cool if we had a bassist," I was like, "Paris plays bass," and Paris and Taylor had actually played in a band way back. You know, they knew each other because Santa Fe is small. And anyways, that's the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So what kind of COVID protocols did you take on this tour?
On this tour, so we camped a lot. It was 2.5 months we were on the road. So yeah, we did a lot of camping. Everywhere we played, we were masked, and because we're smaller artists, we weren't able to be like, vaccinations required because we're not like Phoebe Bridgers or whatever. But that was like a priority when it could have been always masked. A large majority of where we were sleeping was we would just like set up a tent. And so we weren't really like interacting with people a ton. And then we also had a few rapid tests that were with us on the road. So we would take those periodically. There were a few stops where we stayed with friends, like in Minneapolis, I stayed with some family. But we were able to avoid any COVID, and we did our best.
That's so there was no like, because usually after a show traditionally, you talk to some people and they buy some merch and people say, oh, that was a good show, whatever. Did you have any of those interactions, or was it just like you get off the stage and let's go camp out and go to the next city?
I'm trying to think. We didn't have very much of that. Like, this was the weirdest, like most untraditional tour. It was like super DIY. So we played a few like traditional clubs and like venues and bars. And after those shows, I'm trying to think. In New York, we stayed with an old coworker of mine, but there wasn't really any like going out after those. We played a lot of yards, like a lot of backyards. And after that, it would be camping for the most part. I remember when we were in Arizona, we played this bar in Bisbee, Arizona, which is like this really tiny town. I don't know if you're familiar with Bisbee, Arizona.
Of course not. I'm a New York snob. I would have known.
I had never heard of it either, but I remember, yeah, we finished playing this bar. There was like almost no one there. And then we found a place to camp like immediately after the show. We like loaded up the car we were in and like drove out to like some bluff and just like camped there. And there were quite a few instances like that where we would leave a show and have to go set up a tent.
Interesting. So this is a Velvet Vision tour or a Tulips and Velvet Vision tour?
We didn't really have like an official headliner just because, the three of us were kind of like, we're in this together. And we decided, depending on where we were at, we would kind of like play it by ear on who would like kind of get the headliner slot. A lot of it, Taylor is from the West Coast. So a lot of times, like when we would play like West Coast shows, that was kind of like her turf, I guess. And then like the Midwest, that's like more where I'm from, and Paris is from the East Coast. So yeah, it was really equal, and we would kind of feel out the kind of venue we were at. So like if we played like, it really just varied. Because the three of our musical styles are super, super different. Like it's kind of weird that we were on a bill together, but it just worked out that way. So yeah, we would feel it out. Actually, that Seattle show where I connected with Old Man of the Woods, that was a backyard show. And then immediately after, we set up a tent in that yard and camped there.
So who watered the tulips? Like who was responsible for doing that? That's very important. That's very important.
It's true. No watering of the tulips, but the guy who lived in the house whose yard we played in brought us coffee in the morning. He like came out to the tent with a pot of coffee.
That's it. That's all you need. Perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I guess coffee can help keep your roots strong,
Yeah.
I guess.
Same as water. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that'll work. So of all the non-traditional venue spaces you performed, right? You did the yard in Seattle. What was your most favorite and least favorite, and why?
Ooh. There were a couple favorites. One, so we played, it was, I guess, less a yard as much as it was like a piece of land that was in Bend, Oregon. And the person whose house it was very involved in like the van life community world. So like on the property, there were a bunch of like old vans parked. And we actually played on top of like a converted, I think it was like an old pickup truck that had like lights strung on it. So it was like really pretty and just like, you know, kind of picturesque. And it was one of the first shows where people like danced to my music, which felt like really cool. And it was like people I didn't know. So yeah, it was just like this kind of like, yeah, picturesque scene like in Oregon, and like people were dancing and it just felt really cool. And then the other like super notable one was in San Diego. And we didn't actually have, we had this stretch in California where we weren't able to get a show just because COVID, like it was so hard to book in California. So we had this 2-week long stretch where we were like, we'll just like mess around in California for a couple weeks and like then continue on. So we stopped in San Diego. And while we were there, we were like, maybe we can busk. Like we had 2 little orange amps that were battery operated that Taylor and Paris were able to plug their guitar and bass into. And I played my violin acoustically. And we went out to the boardwalk and we played for maybe like 10 minutes. And then a security guard came over and was like, hey, you can't do that here. Like you need a permit. So then we were packing up. And while we were packing up, some guy like walks by us and is like, hey, are you guys a band? And we were like, yeah. And he was like, cool, I'm having this like beach gathering in a couple of hours and we wanted some entertainment. Like, would you guys be interested in coming and playing on the beach? And we were like, yeah, sure. Like, what's the deal? And he was like, do you guys normally like get paid? Or like, he was like, I have a small budget. I can pay you like $150. And we were like, okay, like, yeah, we need the gas money, like whatever. So yeah, we like went and played on the beach. It was like, we had a little bit of time. So we like got sandwiches, we like set up like a blanket and we were like playing on the beach. The orange amps we had were super quiet. They like kind of sounded like shit. So you couldn't really hear us. And we were like on an open beach. So the sound quality was overall like kind of bad. And the gathering, slowly more and more people started to show up. We didn't really know what it was. They all appeared that they did not know each other. They were all like introducing themselves. And we were like, what is this thing? And then we ended up finding this guy that originally asked us to play. And he said that it was a like business school meet and greet, like mixer. Like everybody at this gathering was like part of a business school. And I guess they had a budget for throwing events like this. And he kind of like off the cuff was like, cool, a band, like we'll pay them. So yeah, we just like played on the beach for a few hours and like in between songs, like we would go like jump in the ocean. And for a while we were like, is this guy really going to pay us? And then he totally did. So that was weird.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to visit San Diego. That is such a San Diego thing. Oh, I'm having this gathering on a beach. We need a band. That's, oh man, that's so cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those were kind of like the 2 most notable ones. But yeah, we played yards, we played beaches, we played a barn, we played a farm. But yeah, they were super scrappy DIY shows. Like we would just put out like word on Instagram and be like, if anybody knows people in these towns, or like the people who would host us in these yards would be like friends of friends and they would invite people. And yeah, it was.
Is there anyone that was like, I'm never doing this again?
When they hosted us?
Yeah, is there any kind of space that you were like, we're never doing this kind of thing ever again?
I don't think so. It was pretty overall positive. The farm we played on, it was like Paris's friends farm, and so it was just kind of like their friends. My only complaint about that was that it was in Maine and it was pretty cold, and so we were kind of playing near this big fire, and there was just a lot of dew that was like building up like on my keyboard and stuff, so everything was like kind of getting all wet.
Oh no.
So that was a little weird, but otherwise it was pretty cool. The one other notable thing, so this actually wasn't like an abnormal venue, but when we got down to San Antonio and we played Paper Tiger. I don't know if you're familiar with that venue at all.
Nope. New York snob.
So that venue we actually booked while we were on tour. A lot of the venues and like places that we booked to play, we booked while we were on the road, which was exciting. So we booked that while we were on tour, and they have this setup. So they have a big room that books like, larger acts, and then they have a small room, and both of them are connected by like a shared not a shared balcony, a shared patio. And so each room has a garage door that opens onto the shared patio. So usually they'll throw a show in the small room and the big room. So we were playing in the small room the same night that Japanese Breakfast was playing in the big room, which was really cool because we both had the garage doors open, and like, I don't know, we have a picture of our tour. It was a Volvo, and like you can see the Japanese Breakfast tour bus like in the background, and we're like standing there like posing. But it was cool because when Japanese Breakfast was finishing their set, I was playing my last song or the last couple of songs, and I maybe had like a handful of people in this small room. There was like one couple that was really enthusiastic about my music, so that was cool. But then after the Japanese Breakfast show got out, a bunch of people from her show like funneled into this small room, and the room was like almost full. And I was playing my last song, and there were a bunch of people like cheering and dancing, and it was really fun. And then I got done, and they were like, more. And I was like, I don't have any more songs. And the couple who was really enthusiastic before was like, play your set again. And so I looked at the sound guy and I was like, can I do that? And he was like, yeah, sure. So then I just played my set again, but this time it was like to a room full of people, and that was like so cool.
Fucking, you know what? Like this space from like, as you're telling this story, I'm picturing Elsewhere in New York. Did you play that when you came here?
No.
Okay.
I am like familiar, or I'm aware of that space, but I know venues in towns that I know, and like bands that have played like the venues that I know. So I assume it's similar in size to those.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a big group. There's the hall, Elsewhere Hall, then there's where the bigger acts will play, then there's zone 1 where like the smaller acts will play, then there's the rooftop where mostly smaller acts will play. But yeah, so when you're describing this place, I just think of, that's my favorite reference is Elsewhere. Like, oh, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. So was booking this tour on a DIY level, just doing it yourself, was it rewarding?
Yeah, it was super rewarding. It was so much work, especially because of COVID. We got a lot of rejections. But when we were able to book things, yeah, it just felt really cool. Like, just because it was like the three of us, and yeah, we didn't really go through any, like, we didn't have any kind of like professional help booking us. It was just us kind of like sending cold emails, reaching out to people who we knew like maybe had connections in places. And yeah, it was like incredibly rewarding.
Would you, like, for the long-term plan, I don't know if you're thinking this far ahead, for Velvet Vision or the Tulips, are you thinking, okay, we got to do it ourselves again, or maybe let's try to get a booking agent or tour manager, whatever they call it these days?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like I'm still like so new kind of to the music industry, but I think just after doing this one tour and like making these connections, and also now emailing, I can say like, I did this tour, I played these venues, and so that feels like it gives me a lot more leverage and a lot more confidence to do another self-book tour. Do you know Vagabond, the musician?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I read a really good interview that she did for the Creative Independent. I don't know if you follow that. They have like a website and a newsletter, but they do a bunch of interviews. Yeah.
Mhm.
So her interview with them, she just talked about how like getting started, she was just like booking her own tours, and it was just like constant like DIY touring. And I don't know, I feel like I come back to that a lot. Like I feel really inspired by her saying that, and it just kind of like that, and then doing this one ourselves and talking to other musicians and like networking and even talking to like you and people who are like really supportive. It gives me like a lot of hope and confidence in independent music and like DIY. So yeah.
I was watching a documentary before I was talking to you. It's the Stone's Throw documentary. I don't know if you're familiar with that very
No.
popular, famous indie label, and it's famous for just that, just everything. That's the label that produced all those famous Madlib and J Dilla albums. I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar. Yeah, so it's just a completely DIY operation, and it was respected and admired for just not following any kind of trends of the music business and just putting things that make you feel good. And I see what you're doing, and it's like, okay, we need more people like this to the art is the focus and everything. Like, let's plan our own vision of what no pun intended of your artistry, so to speak. So yeah, like now 2022 with Velvet Vision, you got the Silver City Strange Magic single coming on the 21st January. I think, especially listening to it now, it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just overthinking it. It seems like you're becoming a lot more ethereal than your previous work. Your previous work was pretty cloudy, but like listening to this new material, it's like it's even more cloudy. Am I wrong for saying that or no?
I don't think so.
No?
I guess I don't know if it was like intentional to make it more ethereal. Um those two tracks I did spend a lot less time on actually than like the EP I put out. That I was so nervous about it that I like second guessed everything, and I would have so many drafts. But those two, I kind of wanted to put them out quickly because, well, first of all, to be totally honest, my live set was really, really short. And so I wanted to like beef that up. But also I get a little impatient, and I just kind of wanted to get those out. And I also feel like I tend to overthink a lot of releases, and I just didn't want to get those stuck in this loop of me overthinking and wanting to make more drafts. And I was like, you know what, they're good. I'm just putting them out, and fingers crossed. So, but I do feel like when I tend to work faster, sometimes I lean into those kind of like washy effects as almost a bit of like a crutch, just because it's easier to like hide imperfections if there's like this general wash over my production or my vocals. So that could be it a little bit.
And when I'm listening to your ELO cover, and it's in my head as we speak, and I think that ELO sounds very good with like more dream pop reworks. If that makes sense, for real. Like I'm listening to this tune, I listen to the ELO version. I'm like, I like your version because it's again, I'm partisan towards a lot of the shoegaze, ethereal, noisy pop, dream pop stuff. So when I'm listening to this, I'm like, this sounds gorgeous, and this kind of stuff sounds great with this kind of framework. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I mean, I guess I want to say yes because it's the version that I did. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. And they have like, sort of this, I guess, like electronic like touch to a lot of their music also. So it's interesting and cool to be able to kind of like really like dig into that and make it like super, yeah, I guess like synthy and kind of washy. But especially like a song like Strange Magic, it's like, yeah, in my head, it feels like it does need to be like in that genre.
So
But I also
yeah.
really, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I also really, really love the original. And actually, the reason
Yeah,
that I
it's
decided
great.
to cover that song, I had watched the Virgin Suicides like somewhat recently. And that, I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No.
I hadn't watched it in a long time, and it's like that song plays, if anybody listening has seen that movie, when Lux and Trip have their first dance at the school dance. It's like set in the 70s. And yeah, when it played, I was kind of like, wow, I forgot about this song. And there's something about certain 70s songs like that that really like get me. And then I was like, I think maybe I'll try and cover it.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Yeah. When you're talking about using washed out ethereal vocal effects as a crutch, so when you're actually trying to, sit with a record or whatever for a long period of time, really kind of tweak it the way you want it to, what is the end results as far as like sonically that you want to achieve going forward with your music? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. God, it's really hard to say. I feel like when I hear it, or like when I'm done, I know like when it sounds good. Man, it's really hard because I also like I have so many different like voice memos and other like recordings that I have that aren't totally in the same vein as stuff I've put out. And I've even thought like, why couldn't I put this out as Velvet Vision? Like it's still me, and like maybe I don't need to stick to like a specific sound or genre.
No, you
I feel
shouldn't.
like I don't think
You want
I'm
my
really
advice.
answering your question.
I guess there's no right answer because again, I wouldn't want to pigeonhole you or Velvet Vision is your vision, right? So Betty Taylor can sound how Betty Taylor wants to, because we were talking about Twin right offline, and when I interviewed them, they were like, our next record probably won't sound nothing like this. It's not entirely true, but it's not the same. But they're similar, but it's not the same. So I, the reason why I like them so much, even to this day, because I don't know what to expect from them. So with your stuff, I want to not know what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have some things that I've been thinking about putting out that are definitely like super different, like just acoustic guitar and singing, and like really no effects on my vocals. I think a lot of the thing that makes some of my songs sound similar is just like how I'm producing them. Like I have certain knowledge limitations when it comes to like what I can do in Ableton, and I'm still learning a lot about like electronic music and getting new pieces of equipment all the time. And so I think it really depends on like my production flow will kind of affect the final sound.
You listen to the
And
Ravenettes at all?
I'm familiar like a little bit.
But the thing is, what makes them interesting is that they don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're not living true to any kind of, because what my favorite album from them, Pay Ahi, that they put out in 2014, it's like there's some like noisy guitar shoegaze stuff, and then there's some like electronic synth stuff. It's like it's a wide array of influences, especially on their follow-up. Well, they did a bunch of singles in the year 2016, and a lot of the songs are very different. But like, I like that, because it's, who gives a shit? It's a blank canvas. Use the canvas however you want to. If you used blue last time, you can use chartreuse the next time. Who cares? So when I'm thinking about your music and how you're putting it out so far, right? Because you have an EP, then you have this single, then you have this double single coming out. So is this double single just a double single, standalone, or is it part of a bigger body of work?
I really wish it was part of a bigger body of work. I'm hoping to finish and like release an album within this year, but I also haven't really made much progress on that. So by the time I release like a larger body of work, it seems like maybe the moment will have passed to include those two on this. So as of right now, they're just their own thing. But yeah, the goal for this year is to write a full-length album. That's like my big resolution, I guess.
Is that something you've wanted to do, or do you feel like you have to do it?
Oh, that's like a really good question. A little of both. I mean, I definitely like want to like continue making music, and I guess an album feels like a nice goal for the year because then it's like keeping the momentum going on writing music for the year and like just getting things out, which feels really good. But I also feel like there is a certain amount of pressure. Just, I mean, I do like really value like being an independent artist, but I can't pretend like there isn't like, you know, outside pressure to, you know, put out certain things at certain times and like, yeah, kind of like play the music industry game in a sense. And so in my head, like naturally release the EP, release some singles, like a full-length album feels like the natural like next step.
So where is this pressure coming from? From whom? Internally or?
I think it is mostly internally, but it's also like, you know, looking at social media and like I want to gain traction as an artist just because I feel like it opens up more opportunity. So I think a lot of it is internally, but like a lot of it is just like seeing what other people are doing on social media.
Interesting. Okay. Because yeah, I mean, whatever. Again, it's your vision. You know, Velvet Vision is your vision. So whatever you do with it is up to you. You know, and whatever you want to do is whatever you want to do. Yeah. So when it comes to doing radio, right? Because you host the Independent Hour, which I'm a huge fan of.
Thanks.
KMRD. Have you always had an interest in radio?
Interest as a listener for sure, sort of like just like a longing, I guess, like as a college student, like I mentioned, you know, I was pretty shy in college, and so yeah, getting into radio felt like a really big mental hurdle. But KMRD, I have some friends who were involved at the station, and really outside of the radio part, like I love doing the radio show and I love you know, putting together a playlist for that every week, and it's like really fun, but the community surrounding that station is really strong, and like community is something that's super super important to me. And so being involved in that and getting to know people there has just been like really a stellar thing this year.
So what, as far as your actual show, what kind of musical void do you feel like you're filling with the Independent Hour?
I feel like, you know, some of the artists that I strive to play maybe have such a small presence that they wouldn't get airplay, you know, potentially otherwise. Or I don't know, I guess I just want to give a platform to like smaller indie artists that maybe wouldn't be on the radio otherwise. And also, you know, I think about like growing up, like in high school and like early college, I was like the music I listened to, you know, it was always like fun to have the, you know, kind of smaller artists, like you could play for your friends and everybody would be like, you know, who's this? And then you could be like, oh, it's this like really tiny, like no one knows this band, whatever. So I think, I don't know, I have this thought on both sides where it's like, you know, potentially cool for an artist to get radio play, even though this is like, it's the smallest station. It's got like a 3-mile radius. I mean, it streams online too, but so getting that exposure for an artist, but then I also think like maybe there could be like some local kid in Madrid who's like, wow, this cool band, like I can show my friends and like be in the know on this like super little known artist or something. I don't know.
Tell me about some Santa Fe artists or any artists you're playing on your show that I should care about.
Ooh, good question. Teleporter is one.
I'm going to actually put these down. A
Yeah.
teleporter, right?
Yeah. He is kind of, electronic, a little bit experimental. His stuff, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Animal Collective. He's doing cool stuff. I wish I could remember what his EP was called.
Oh, I looked it up. Is it Oldies? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So he's pretty good. My friend Paris, who we went on tour with, her project is called Sirens, and it starts with a P, so it's Psirens.
Oh yeah. I heard you play it on your show. Yeah. I heard some of that stuff.
She's great.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, there's a local band called Gold Tides, and they do some kind of like, man, I'm so bad with genres.
You don't need, fuck genres. I'll
Yeah,
listen for
you
myself
can-
and come up with my
Yeah.
own
Oh,
conclusion.
and then one band that I talked about earlier that Taylor drums for, the Bat Rays, they are
Bat Rays.
so good. I am like actually like legitimately big fan of the Bat Rays.
Oh, the Bat Rays or just Bat Rays? Is it
might
this?
just be
See, that's Bat Rays.
no,
No, that's not it. Okay.
no, BATRAYS, one word.
Oh, got you. What? I don't think it's on Spotify. They're probably they Bandcamp.
Wait, it
exclusive?
totally is. Hold on, let me
It
see if I
totally
can
is?
find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is important stuff for real.
It
Like,
is,
music
and
discovery,
I
that's all
feel
care
very
about.
strongly about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bat Rays.
Oh, the
So
Bat
it's
Rays.
like-
One word. Ah, got you. Yeah, I found it.
Yeah,
Bat
they are
Rays.
excellent.
Okay, cool. I like the album cover. Still.
Yeah, my favorite song pick for them is Mama's Wine. Just throwing
Mama's
that out
Wine.
there.
Great title. That sounds like a country song. It probably won't be, but like Mama's like
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of like twangy songs have a little alcohol and like some sort of like parental figure in the,
Oh,
in the
totally.
title.
Yeah,
Some sort
like
of
Papa's
culinary.
Whiskey, Mama's
Yeah.
Wine. Yeah.
Or like I don't know if you listen to the Highwomen. They have a song called Crowded Table. Like it's all about food
Yeah,
and stuff.
Totally.
But Highwomen's awesome. So this is your time. Plug anything Betty Taylor, either the Tulips, Velvet Vision, Independent Hour. It's your time.
Whoa. Yeah, Velvet Vision is my project. You can find it on all streaming platforms. It's like synth pop if you're into that. Little Tulips, we're also on all streaming platforms. What else do I have to plug? The Independent Hour is my show on KMRD, which is a small community independent radio station out of Madrid, New Mexico, rural New Mexico. Streaming online at kmrd.fm/listen.
I love it. I love because you know what? Because you don't overthink it. You just get in there. Here's what I like, and you get the fuck out. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, thanks for this conversation. I feel like actually after your album question, I am like, that like really made me think when you were like, are you doing this for you or are you doing it for someone else? Now I'm like, I got some shit to think about.
This is why people come here. This is why I want people to come here so we can have these kind of conversations. You thought I was going to ask you what your influences are and all that kind of, no, I don't know. I throw hard balls. You know what I mean?
Shit.
It's just talking. We're just talking. That's all it is. It's not about, I'm going to stomp you. I'm going to get you. No, just talking. This is how I talk. So that's all.
It's
So
great.
yeah, this was an amazing, I knew this interview was going to be great and it was great. So thank you
You're
so much.
a
man.
really good interviewer also.
Am I?
Like,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Like it just, I mean, you said it's just a conversation and that's like what it was. And I feel like that's the best. That's the best.
That's all. That's all it is.